Dioh. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the panel, joined by EJ and Rochelle. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Rochelle.
Mine. Hello. Good to see you both.
Good to see you. Okay, so today, before I even ask how everybody is, have you ever lost your voice? Have you ever been in a situation where you've lost your voice? Rochelle?
Do you mean physically? I mean, I used to get laryngitis all the time. But in terms of like, have I ever felt like I couldn't speak? For some reason it's not letting me stream that to my audience, so I'll just go with yours for now. Yeah, I probably have like been in some uncomfortable situations where I felt like I maybe just don't know what to say and I don't know how to approach it, and maybe that I don't know how to either stand up for myself or stand up for the other people involved in that situation. Yeah, that's definitely happened. It's very uncomfortable experience to be in, and it's figuring out how do you stop that from happening, I suppose, is a question.
Yeah. What about you, EJ?
Well, a lot of my experiences come from being an immigrant. You know, it comes into every aspect of my life. I think especially because I moved into this country as an adult. So a lot of the examples I give are related to that. In terms of losing my voice, yes, I can talk for England. I am the justice for the people, activist, fighter. So, you know, when I did and when I have lost my voice, oh my goodness. Can I give a very quick example? When I first moved to this country, I was doing a course, a radio production course. And I was still trying to gauge, you know, how do these British people, is there, because in Africa there's hierarchy, you know? So you don't call people who are older than you by name, you don't look them in the eye, all that kind of stuff. So, but then I'm seeing all these young ones, they just call you by name. They just, you know, so I was still trying to gauge where I was. And during this radio production course, I noticed the way people were talking to the tutor, you know, like they respect him, but I wouldn't in Nigeria talk to him like that. And also I had been watching The Apprentice. So I thought I'd use The Apprentice to sort of measure how British society is. I was so meek and mild and so quiet. I was thinking this is not the right way to be. So I decided to try and use my voice, and I got it wrong. Because he was trying to help me with something, and I did something I saw on The Apprentice. So I said, could you just let me get on with it, please? I literally did. Could you just let me get on with it, please? I'll be all right. And you know what? Years, it's been about 15 years. Every time I see him, he talks about how disrespectful I was that day. Because I used my voice, but in a different way that was not aligned to who I am.
Right.
You know, and because in trying to find out who you are, where you fit in, trying to sort of voice up or, you know, stand up for yourself or other people because other people are doing it will make you use your voice, but in the wrong way. So that's made me confident, because a lot of times I don't know how people are receiving it. I mean, I've changed, I've grown since then, but that's a different aspect to it, you know.
Right. It's interesting, isn't it? It's like when I think of losing voice, I feel as if it's giving your power away. I always, and it's something I'm really passionate about. If I ever see situations where I feel as if people need to voice how they feel or what they need, or even just what they want, and they're put in positions where they are coerced into not being able to speak up, and I mean I've experienced it again coming from originally from Africa. You are taught to be respectful and only speak when you're spoken to and everything else, obviously you can tell that I so paid attention to those rules, right? And stuff. So but it still sticks with me though, that you listen to your elders and you listen to people who are more advanced than you. And what I found was coming back to England, I came back to England when I was 18. So I came in and I went and I got a job straight away. And watching managers who weren't necessarily responsible but took advantage of the fact that they knew you wouldn't speak. Maybe they didn't even realize that you wouldn't speak to a superior, professional superior. So they would then take advantage of that. I found that I struggled with that a lot. And I make sure that I advocate for voice, but I also advocate for voice for women as well. And I'm not saying that other genders don't experience that, but I feel like women just need, I feel like women need that confidence. Like it's we're a suppressed gender, if that makes sense, in a lot of ways. When they say, oh, it's a man's world, and it's like you go into a meeting. I mean, I've been in board meetings where men can be quite assertive. So a woman, and this is a huge generalization, but this is from my experience, is where a woman will try and voice something, but because the men are shouting louder, the woman then leaves the meeting and never says what she has to say. Or she may say it in such a low voice that one man will hear it, that man will nick her ideas, and then run with it and stuff. And I'm talking about extreme cases here that I feel
actually, those are not extreme, Vicky. That's everyday life now. That is
right.
everyday
mansplaining.
Yes.
I like that word because it happens so often. And even like obviously being in the property industry, it is very male dominant, and you do find that sometimes people will, or like particularly men, they'll start to explain something to you like you don't know the answer already, and like they just make that assumption that, oh, of course you're not going to know what this means. I'm like, I do know, like you don't have to explain it to me, I do understand. And I think that happens quite a lot in those, whether it's in a boardroom setting or just in everyday life, when people don't believe that you're going to know as much as what you do know. I've had it lately, actually, just talking in on Facebook posts, commenting on things, and people. So there was a post by Rob Moore, and he talked about a bank that was doing a specific offer for women in business. And he was pretty much saying that, why can't we just support all people in business? Why does it have to be specifically women? And I did a comment, and then and I mentioned about like the sacrifice of going as a mum, going on maternity leave, sacrificing my career to bring up my children, and going part-time in that job before business. And he was like, well, you didn't have to sacrifice your career, you didn't have to have children. And no, it was a choice. I did want to have children, but often as a woman, we do take that sacrifice of stepping away from a career, because no matter what, we have to carry that baby, and it's not guaranteed that you're going to have a good pregnancy. Most women do choose to have like a certain amount of time off away from the career, and then it's one of those things you can't do right for doing wrong. So you sacrifice your career, or you go back to work and you're criticized for dragging up your kids, letting other people raise them. So either way, you're going to lose out. But I thought there were lots of people who were standing up for what I was saying, but there were lots of men, particularly like white men, who don't see that because they are privileged, they don't see that privilege, and they don't understand what it means, because every day is fine for them. So they're like, well, why do we need to bring up these things? Why do we need to have things specifically for women, or specifically for Black people, or specifically for the LGBTQ plus community? And they really don't understand the world that a lot of people actually live in.
Yeah. And sorry, go on, Vicky.
No, go on, EJ.
But I was going to say, especially like, it's interesting that that this topic has sort of just come into our careers, hasn't it? The topic was just, have you ever lost your voice? But all three of us have found that losing your voice is somehow and many times linked to also being a woman, which is why, I mean, when I see people like public figures, whether I like them or not, whether I agree with them or not, if it's a woman who is daring to be loud, to express herself in whichever form, I may not agree with her values, but in all honesty, I admire any woman who is able to break through that. Because in trying to fit in trying to not be, in our case, the angry Black woman, in trying not to be the drama queen, in trying not to be the emotional one, we make ourselves small and silent, because there's a certain way that society has sort of posed, this is how a woman is, this is how a man is. If, I'm sure you've heard several times, if we said the same, if we had the same stance and the same posture as men in meetings, that man will be assertive and, you know, he's a strong leader. If it's a woman, it would be that she's a drama queen and she's a Karen and she's a, you know, the comparisons. I just find it so fascinating that losing our voice, that's just the topic. Vicky, Victoria didn't add anything else to it other than, have you ever lost your voice? And we are finding, I think it's so interesting that that somehow has just narrowed down to our gender, which means, I mean, if we're all having the same, you know, similar experiences, then it's certainly worth talking about.
I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, we've never had a man on here. I'd love to bring in a male guest for one of these topics and just to see sort of like what their take is on it, because I feel so. Oh God, men, if you're listening to this, please come in and tell me that I'm wrong and stuff. But I feel as if I watch people quite a lot, and in the job that I do, where, you know, you're making sure that people's lives are better and more fulfilled, I pay attention to relationships, to the dynamics of relationships, and I believe that men lose their voice in the domestic setting more than they do in the professional setting. And I'm not saying in all cases, I'm just saying in a lot of cases. What does that mean? It's like, if you come home and things aren't the way you like them to be, it's almost like you judge, well, how long am I going to be at home before I go back to work? That's assuming that they're the breadwinner, or they've got a job outside the house. So it's almost like you pick your battles. So sometimes you see things that you would normally put your foot down or say something about, and you don't say anything. So I think sometimes that losing the voice. But I feel like when men are emasculated, they almost sort of like, they turn into little boys, so to speak, and stuff. I can't speak for other genders because I don't have much experience around that. But when I look at women, for us, we naturally, we're very intelligent and we bring a lot to the table. So when we want to shine, which is very natural for us to do, and we get suppressed, it's normally in our professional stance, because at home we normally have the range of the home to do pretty much with what we like in most cases. So when you, and with women grow and realize that, oh, I need financial independence. So financial independence comes with earning money. And that means that you have to create other relationships. And that means going out there and hanging out with other people. And I find that women tend to lose their voices. And listen, there are some very masculine energied women as well who will dominate and who will manipulate the stance, and also make other people lose their voice as well. So I think it's a gender thing, but I don't think it's just gender. I think it's circumstance. But can I just say this? I've got so much to say. This is what happens when you guys don't come back to me about a topic and stuff. I put a topic out there, and it's normally one that just winds me up. You know, thinking about race in particular, you have people whose language isn't their first language isn't English. So a lot of people won't necessarily be able to express themselves in English as they would in their language. So sometimes when things happen that needs them to be able to come out and be really forefront and I've seen it happen to a lot of African women. So, for example, in Africa, we speak different dialects, but we also speak Pidgin English. And Pidgin English is a lot more fluid and fun to talk in and stuff, and you can elaborate yourself in. Now, if I start speaking in Pidgin English, the only person that will understand me here is EJ and stuff, and it's only because Rochelle's Black heritage isn't from West Africa, so to speak, so she wouldn't get it. So if I was needed to express myself, I'd have to find a common language, and the only common language is English. So if my English vocabulary is limited, sometimes you just like, you know what, I might as well not say anything, and you walk away even more frustrated. So I guess the question to you ladies is, what do you think is the solution?
I used to do a talk titled "Who Disqualified You?"
Ooh.
And it sort of goes through you as an individual. When you have felt like you don't measure up, who told you that? And what evidence is there of it? So have you disqualified yourself? And based on what evidence have you disqualified yourself? So what you're saying about, for instance, being a woman or being a Black woman or even being a man, you know, in whatever circumstances that you feel disempowered, I think it's important to ask, why do I feel this way? Am I doing this? Is it self-sabotage, or is this somebody doing it to me? And are they justified in silencing me? You know, so I think, to answer your question, the solution, whenever you find yourself in a situation for whatever reason that you feel silenced or you feel disempowered, it always helps to ask, who is doing this to me and why? And I find that when you can answer those questions, you find, actually, I've disqualified myself for no reason, or this person is silencing me because there's something about my voice that triggers them. You know, I am perhaps, my magnificence is making them feel small, or maybe there is genuine evidence. Maybe it's justified. Maybe I don't have the skills. Maybe what I was saying was not right. Maybe I haven't done my homework. So who disqualified you? If you can answer that question, and I think we're on our way.
Can I just say something? Sorry, Rochelle. I know you want to jump in, and then I also want to touch on a recent piece of news that came out, and it's quite sensitive, but I want to touch on it because one of the things that I want to be able to bring to this talk show is at least being current affairs, even though I don't watch TV. However, talking about losing the voice, 2 years ago, I crewed for Tony Robbins' UPW, which means Unleash the Power Within. It's one of Tony's big events. It was held in Birmingham, and I think it was an 8,000 or 9,000 person event. It was massive. And I got put as a door greeter. Now, it sounds quite menial, apart from the fact that 9,000 people were coming through the door that I was manning. And you have to bring the energy. So, you know, I love talking and I love chanting and I love encouraging people. So it's like being on stage. Like, it's almost the first stage they meet. So you're congratulating them for being here. It's like, welcome to Tony Robbins. Life will never be the same again. And people were loving it. And also, it was a great strategy as well, because people remember you. People remember you. People then, come looking for you after. They want to network and everything else. So I was doing this for this group, and it was amazing. It was so good, and the reviews were so good that people kept on asking for me to be on that door. And on the fourth day or the third day, I had somebody who was from, so you have different levels. You have crew members, then you have team leaders and all of those. So one of the team leaders came to me and he went, "I'm so sorry." He goes, "But when you speak," he goes, "when you shout," no, he said, "when you scream, it goes straight through me." He goes, and it, seriously,
close your ears.
it goes straight through me. And he goes, and he goes, it triggers me and stuff, and it's so, and he goes, so I was just wondering if you could just bring it down. Now, my default craziness, African woman craziness, was like, you what? And then I was like, Victoria, just play this game, because Tony's voice is like thunder. And you know, most women want to sleep with him and most men want to be him, you know, and stuff. And it's like, you know, and I'm like, he speaks like thunder, and you will literally sit underneath his head and let him speak and spit over you because you adore him so much. But because it's me, you believe you can say that. And I just leaned over and I said, I'm so sorry you feel that way. I said, you're going to have to move away, aren't you? I said, because guess what? I'm not going to change for anybody. And the look on his face was like, he didn't know what to do with himself. Anyway, it just so happened that the Tony Robbins team had seen me, sent a camera over to video me, and put me as the headline for the recap of the whole event when they did the recap on the final day. And this guy did not know where to put himself. He literally was so embarrassed. He saw me about midnight that night and he tried to apologize. And I went, I won't worry about it. But it was just really interesting how sometimes people will knowingly try and take your voice away, just because they, you know, maybe they don't. I wouldn't even say worship, because why would you worship me? But you know, it's like he worshipped Tony, so it was okay for Tony, but not for me, who in his mind was a nobody. Isn't that crazy? Sorry, Rochelle. So how do we solve this?
I think you gave a perfect example there of how you handled that situation. And that's something where I definitely need to in life have more of a backbone. And it's that, and it is a big comfort zone stretcher. I'm a people pleaser. I want people to like me. I don't want to be in uncomfortable situations. I don't want people not to like me. And I think I've said to you before, Victoria, and I can't remember if I said it in this call, on the live, but I can remember being about 17 and stood outside work at night waiting for a taxi, and I was probably like having a laugh with my friends, talking to them, and a boy who I sort of knew said, "Will you shut up? Your voice is so annoying."
Oh yeah.
Like, that is something that's still, like, what is it, 20 years later, I can still remember that, and I still feel like that has had such an impact on my life. And it's just one irrelevant boy who actually at a later date, I think he was quite good friends with another friend, and he was like, "Oh no, I don't even remember saying that. Like, I like him." It was something that was a split second thing that he said and probably forgot instantly, has then played out in my mind for 20 years, that my voice is annoying. And there's lots of little things like this that just stick, and it's so frustrating. And I think it's important, like now I go, some people will find my voice annoying, I find some people's voices annoying, but they're not my people, and that's fine. And it's about trying to be yourself and push yourself out of your comfort zone when you are in these situations, and being strong and going, actually, what does their voice matter? Why is their voice more important than mine? And it's not. So what I was going to say before, after EJ was speaking, was about being in property. And I can remember having my first call with a potential investor, and like dripping with sweat, and my heart's racing, and I'm so nervous because I'm thinking, like, who am I to be speaking to someone about property at this stage? I'd got next to no experience apart from doing some training. And that first call, what I realized was, actually, I know more than I'm giving myself credit for. I came off feeling like, oh yeah, I did know more than this man. I'd put the people with the money on a pedestal. And especially now, like 5 years in from starting in property, I've done 40 property renovations. Like, when I'm talking to a lot of people, they've never bought one property, never mind like looked after 40. So I feel like the more I do, more experience I get, the more confident I feel. But then there are still times where I doubt myself and I go, oh, 40 is not really that many. There's people that have done a lot more than that. And I start going within myself. So it's having a belief in ourselves that we do know what we're talking about. We do know what we're doing. We are experts in our field, and just keeping that belief in ourselves. And I think we're the only people that can change it and can move forward with this and grow, so that people aren't putting their the like squashing us. Basically, I got an image in my mind then. My mum and my sister both have dogs, and my mum's dog's like this little tiny ratty thing, bless her, and she's really hyperactive and always running around. And my sister has got this new puppy, which is massive, and they play together all the time, but the puppy is so dominating on the little dog, and she's always putting a paw on top of it to squash her down. But the little one's so much faster, and she'll be like running rings around her, and that was the image I was getting in my mind when I was thinking about it. People are often, when they feel like someone's smaller but yet they're faster and they can get the ball quicker than you, and they feel threatened by that, so then the dog's having to put a paw on her to stop her from doing what she's doing, and feel that authority and that power. And I think like that visualization in my mind of them two to drive me crazy together. But I think that's what's often happening. Like, who are you as a woman, or who are you to be trying to like being better at something than what I am? So I'm going to show you like who I am by using my strength and my masculinity to squash you as a woman.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to say this though, that it happens across all genders.
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know, as Steve Harvey would say, goes, all I know is about being a woman. So I can only come from my experience. What I will say is that finding your voice is also part of self-love, really understanding yourself, as in what do you deserve in this world. One of the things that I've had to really work on for myself is what I will tolerate in life, and that's with friendships, relationships, and just the way people speak to me, the way people treat me. It's like, you know, I've had to really work on that, because I am naturally a reacher outer. You know, I will ring, I will call, you know, I'm that person that's there, and I'll make myself available. And as what that comes with though is sometimes quite a lot of disappointment, because I feel like that, because quality time is my language, my love language, doesn't mean that it's somebody else's love language. So I've had to really be really careful about what I expect. And when it's something that I don't want in my life or don't agree, then I either let it known or I act accordingly. So there's nobody in my life that doesn't need to be in my life at the moment. For example, like everybody's in my life is there for a reason. And if you're not meant to be in, then I'll let you know that you're not meant to be in and stuff. It's like I won't allow for that. And if somebody tries to take my voice, then I'll address it. It might be uncomfortable, but I'll always address it. I don't believe in having loose ends in my life at all. So I don't walk away wondering what somebody meant or what somebody intended. I always make sure that I have that conversation. And also, you know, EJ mentioned this before about, you know, the angry Black woman. You know what, and stuff. It's like, I don't care how you see me. If you see me as an angry Black woman, see me as an angry Black woman. I'm happy, and I think we should do a talk about this another time. But the truth of the matter is, and stuff, as a Black woman, we come with a lot of passion. We come with a lot of noise. We come with a lot of soul, and that's who we are. And I think, you know, there's enough diversity in the world now for people to realize that it's not about being angry, but equally, if you see an African woman laugh and you see her cry and you see her angry, they're almost like the same emotion and stuff. You have to sort of, it's loud. And I don't apologize for that anymore. Like I never did, but if somebody mistook that as aggressive or whatever, I'm like, bring it on. I don't care. Like I've had to really accept me for who I am and realize that it's not an apology. You know, it's like, let's have that conversation. Let's have that conversation that will eventually allow us to all understand each other. Anyway,
Yeah.
I want to touch on something, and I didn't mention this, but there was it last week or 2 weeks ago, there was news about the trans community, and I wasn't going to comment on it because, again, I don't know much. I have friends who've gone through the experience, but I can't pretend. I can't pretend to know much about it, and it doesn't matter how much somebody who's been through it talks to me about it. I will never understand. What I will say is that compassion is very important. You know, and I want you guys, you don't need to answer, you don't need to tap into this at all, but I'll give you the floor. But I just want to say, you know, I always look at the person. I always look at the person. I don't need to know the reasons behind anything and stuff. I always look at the person. To me, you're either somebody that I get on with, or you're somebody that I don't get on with. And majority of people in my life, I do get on with. What I will say about the news and the decision and everything else is, from my perspective, and I also didn't want to be bullied into saying anything either. I didn't want to be coerced saying something. I didn't want it to be that, oh well, if you don't say anything, then you're not a supporter or whatever stuff. I don't. Yeah, I don't need to be labeled an ally. I don't need that validation. But what I will say, and I say this for everyone, and also it reminds me of it really resonates with what's going on with other races in America at the moment. I believe that as human beings, we have been told that we are safe. There is a version of safety that has been put there. So in America, it's race. You know, it's like, well, we've got rid of discrimination now and stuff and segregation, and everybody can move in together and will support you the best way. And also the LG. Oh my God, there you go. So that community. I said to my friend Jamila, I'm like, say the words and you know what I mean and stuff. But yeah, but the community have been told that they're safe by providing policies and venues to be heard and to be understood and to be supported. The fact that those spaces are now being revoked, I think is heartbreaking. That's from me who doesn't know much. Okay. And like I say, I don't need to be an ally. I don't need to. I just come from it from a humane perspective. Is if you know, I know a lot of Black people in America who are friends and family who are scared for their lives, because of what's happening. Like they literally won't go out in the dark. They won't go to parties because now there has been that passport of you can do what you want with these people, or we don't really care about their safety. And equally, I feel, and again, happy to be proven wrong, that is very similar when all of a sudden your basic human rights is being challenged and taken away from you because now you've been told that you're not safe. So I just want to say, from that perspective, I look after yourselves. Look after yourselves wherever you are. We support you. That you deserve somewhere safe. This isn't about what is understood, what isn't understood, and people's opinions about it. And on whichever side of the fence you are, just be kind. And if you can't be kind, shut up. if you can't be kind, shut up. Just literally, just this is the one time when I encourage you to lose your voice. I encourage you to lose your voice. Rochelle, thoughts?
Well, I could talk about this subject for like 3 days at least. It's quite a can of worms, and I'm not 100% sure where I should start. But it is a topic very close to my own heart because, like, a member of my family is transgender, and seeing that transition and seeing the difficulty that she has gone through at school, the words that people like call her, the abuse that she's received, especially more recently because it is so prominent in the news, is just horrific. And like Victoria says, you don't need to understand, like, and unless somebody has been part of your family or being particularly close, you might not understand. But it's just, you don't have to understand, but be kind and and be accepting of people for who they want to be. I actually feel it's gone significantly backwards. So I had a friend like when I was 18, 19 who was trans, and at that point it felt like it was perfectly comfortable and people were accepting and a lot more understanding than what they are now. And I'm like, that's nearly 20 years ago, and we've actually gone backwards, which is crazy. A lot of people who are happy of the ruling saying that if you're assigned female at birth, that means you're a woman. If you're assigned male at birth, that means you're a man. They have a lack of understanding of biology because actually, it may look very simple on the surface, and a large proportion, the majority of people, it is very black and white. You're either a man or a woman. But there are also a huge part of the community, both biologically and psychologically, that don't fit into those two typical stereotypes, and that leaves that whole community or whole group of people in limbo over things like which toilets they're allowed to use. And having my friend 20 years ago, like what he went through and the anxiety that going to the toilet caused him because he didn't necessarily completely look like a stereotypical man, like it caused a lot of anxiety knowing what my relative has gone through, so like just for the right to be able to use the toilets and the anxiety that's caused her. It's a massive deal for them. Like, transgender people are not going into the women's toilets and raping women or sexually attacking women. That's not happening. Like, the people who think that's happening, I don't think they've ever even met a transgender person that they're aware of. There's like this gap now where you go in, there are transgender men who live their lives as men, look like men, have beards, like that they have beards, they look manly, they are going to be expected to use the women's toilets because they've been assigned woman at birth, and vice versa. You've then got some people are saying, well, no, they can't use the men's or the women's toilets, they should use the disabled toilets. But then what about disabled people who actually need to use the disabled toilets? And like,
they're not disabled.
Yeah, they're not disabled. They need to have access to that space. So there's all that to, like, obviously it's a much deeper conversation. That's just like an overview. But then it's also the impact that it has on other women, women that were assigned women at birth and live their life as women, where people, I'm seeing it on Facebook, so you might have seen about the boxer who fought in the Olympics, and as far as the evidence is shown, she was assigned female at birth. She's always lived a life as a woman, and people are zooming in on her crotch and examining it, and they're examining her throat, and they're looking at the size of her hands. And what horrible. And how like, so whether she is transgender or not, how is that right that as women people are judging us by our bodies, that they're zooming in on body parts, and because you're a woman who's particularly tall, or you've got a particularly deep voice, or you might have a more masculine angled face, like you're then going to be judged, and people are going to be saying, like, should you be using these toilets? Well, yes, I was born as a woman, I just might be a little bit taller than the average woman, but I am defining as a woman, and then it goes to the same vice versa. Like, it's just opening up a whole can of worms, when actually is the biggest issue in the world at the moment that transgender women use the women's toilets. Like, let's focus our attention on that actually are impacting people.
Yeah, I think, sorry, EJ, I know you've got a lot to say about this as well. For me, again, like I say, I really don't understand it as a topic, but what I will say is I would rather the government start thinking of ways to support, like support a child who says, this is how I feel, provide that support rather than I just think the snatching away of a right is it's horrendous. That's what this is where I come from, because Rochelle, obviously you've experienced it for all your life actually, or most of your life, so you have more of an experience. For me, it's like there could be a whole debate in there as to where people stand, but at the end of the day, people have gone through the experiment of transgender, whether we like it or not. It has happened. So it's like, so what are so those people that are almost trying to misplace them, it's like, what do you want to do with them? You know what I mean? It's like, well, you can't just say they don't have a place in society and stuff. It's like a lot of them have families, well, not families, but children. A lot of them have partners. They have other family members, as in like you've got like sisters and brothers and everything else and stuff, and it's like the impacts that it would have, but also just your divine right to be able to go to the loo when you want to.
They're just trying to live their life and be happy, and it's something that a lot of transgender people have struggled, and so many people still do struggle. And I think that's one of my biggest worries, is that people who were on the verge of coming out to their family and saying, like, I've always felt like I've been in the wrong body, I am going to now transition and become a trans man or become a trans woman, like those people are not going to come out now. They're going to go deeper inside themselves, and like the amount of people that commit suicide because of this type of thing, of feeling like they've not got a place where they belong, feeling that they're constantly being judged. Like it's I know from my family members' experience, like leaving the house and making sure that everything's in the right place and that you feel presentable and you feel good in yourself is such a challenge. It's so like every day they are living a challenge, and we're here with our privileged life of just being able to go into the women's toilets and no one question us, to be able to do whatever we want as women without having that level of judgment. And it's just really sad that people feel like they can pick on, and I suppose it goes back to that image of what I was saying about the two dogs, like that feeling like, oh, who do they think they are to be going out into the world dressing as they want, living a happy life in their own skin. Like it's like when people have got that, they've got that newfound confidence of being able to be themselves, and these other people are squashing them back down again. So I think it links right back round to our original topic. It's squashing the voices of these people who they feel like have too much power and shouldn't be able to speak up for themselves.
So you love it when Rochelle finds her voice. She's all on it.
I talk about this subject every single day. So like
days.
when people say, what could you stand up on stage and talk about? And it's not something that I've actually ever planned to stand up and talk about, but I have conversations about this topic every single day, and I don't think I could ever get until trans people can go out and like not be in fear of getting attacked and feel like they're accepted by society. It is something that I can talk about. But I still have, like, so I've spoke about it on Facebook. I have not spoken about it on LinkedIn, and this links back round to the losing my voice. I am scared to talk about it on LinkedIn. I'm scared from a point of view, will all my clients agree with what I'm saying? How will that impact my business? How will it impact how people perceive me? And I feel like I'm upset because that's like kind of cowardly of me. But I'm also think like I will at some point, but I think it's got to be the right time for me.
Yeah. Like none of you, I mean, I Rochelle and I had this conversation last week, and EJ, you will speak, I promise. Rochelle and
I'm happy. I'm listening. Yeah.
Rochelle and I had this conversation last week, and and I didn't know about this family member and stuff. And it's funny because we talk a lot about a lot of things, but and I did say, I was like, to me, it's about feeling like you're being forced to say something and what have you. And I know a lot of people who agree with it, who don't agree with it. Not the decision to take toilets away, but like agree with sort of like the trans experience and everything else and stuff, like what people go through. But I also know people who I believe that that's their only way of surviving, of living. None of us are experienced enough to know the ins and outs of it and what have you. And when I talk about the ins and outs of it, I'm talking the science, the psychology, the psychotherapy, and everything else that goes with it. But what I will say is that everybody deserves to exist as a human being, and just like from a Black person's perspective, where Black TV anchors have been taken off mainstream America because of their color, and it's been openly done. It's not even a secret. It's like, you're Black, you don't deserve a space on mainstream TV. We're taking away equality and diversity. You're not the right color, we're taking you out of your job. That's what's happening in America right now, and there's nowhere for people to turn. Again, for governments out there, start thinking about what you're allowing to happen. So if you're going to agree that there's no segregation, then let there be no segregation. But don't start segregation, start abolish segregation and then start segregation, because that's just playing with people's mind and their brains and everything else. And that's my position on this. It's not about it's not about whether you're for or against this. It's just like every human being deserves to have some sort of dignity. Without going out or not going out because you're scared to be caught going to the loo and like, oh, where am I going to go? Or have somebody attack you because you're in the wrong toilet, or not get given a job. I've got a friend right now who's just been made redundant because of the whole Black thing in America, and she's looking for work and she can't find work. And it is scary because she is, she's in her 50s and stuff. It's like, you have to start all over again. And where do you start? And anything now that she's looking for, she's being told that she'll get paid a fraction of the salary. It's happening everywhere in different minorities, and
Yeah.
we just need to be a bit more kind. EJ, go on.
Don't worry, I won't talk for too long. I have 3, maybe 4 bullet points on this matter. Like you,
Yeah.
I have no lived experience of the LGBT community. I was assigned female at birth. I live as a woman. I come from a country where being gay is illegal. You will get put in prison. So coming from that and then trying to expand my mind to understand what a human being must be going through, because I don't see anybody voluntarily putting themselves through the anguish that
Right.
transgender community are putting themselves through. So there is something there for me to learn and to unlearn. So like Rochelle is saying, you don't need to understand it. I don't understand it. However, my first thing is, I think everybody should be very conscious of who they are choosing to be in this conversation. There is a group of people who are currently feeling scared, feeling uncertain, and it doesn't matter whether you understand it or not. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. Who are you showing up as? You started off, Victoria, by saying show compassion. And that is the humane thing to do. Be kind. Some of us, I think 3 of us, for the sake of our gender or our race, we know how it must feel for your humanity to be questioned. This is not something I can change. This is who I am. Yet you're saying that I am not human enough. So for me, that's an issue. People should be conscious of who they are choosing to be in the conversation. 2, I don't understand the government. I don't get it. I've not looked into it much, but I don't understand something that was once had is being taken away. And I'm wondering what's being given back, because I'm a HR professional. We have the Equality Act. One of the 9 protected characteristics is the transgender. They have their entire characteristic all by themselves, the transgender community. So it feels like something is being taken away. And I'm wondering, is that because what's being given back? Because it feels like a step backward to me. Perhaps I need to look into it more, because apparently intelligent people made this decision. So I need to see,
I like
like
that.
how did they land here? And
Right.
then, like Rochelle is saying, you have a family member who's going through this every day. You had a friend when you were younger who's still perhaps going through this, whole thing. Like with Black people, and people don't like it when I equate this to Black people, but it is something you cannot control. So I will equate it to a racial experience, because that's what I can understand it from. When people say all these Black people, all this transgender, all
Mm,
this whatever it is, it's usually
mm,
people who they haven't gained proximity to the issue. I am looking for friends from the LGBT community, by the way. If anybody wants to be my friend, please. I am open, because I have questions. I know that I cannot fully support, be an ally, I can't do any of that, because I don't understand most of the issues that are being faced. But if I had somebody in my life, which I'm hoping I will do, if I have somebody in my life who I can have conversations with, like a lot of people are my friends because I am Black, because they want to find a safe Black person that they can ask questions, where they can understand the issues, so that the issues no longer become a Black issue. It's no
mm,
longer a transgender issue. It's a human issue. So my words to everyone is to gain proximity. Go and diversify your friend group, so that you can understand what your fellow human beings are going through.
mm. So funnily enough, we had Alex J. Lanham, who I met at when we both spoke for Be Inspired all those years ago, EJ, when we met. So um, they are they're now transitioned and stuff, and are great at having conversations with. Um, I remember when I met them and stuff, and born originally as a woman, it was quite interesting, because I was like, I'm going to make mistakes. I
Yes.
I like, and they were like, listen, I know it's not intentional, and it was more questions upon questions upon questions. And even when they were going through their transition and stuff, I did send them a message, just say, hey, just checking you're okay, because I don't believe that anybody voluntarily goes through such a massive transition.
I'm
um
sure if you asked
on,
any
on,
trans person, they would have much rather just been born in
on
the
purpose.
body. Yeah,
Yeah,
without
and
having to go through that
yeah,
extreme.
I mean, I'm older than both of you. God, I can't believe I've gone from the youngest person in the room to the oldest person in the room. Still,
Ancient.
it still takes me some getting used to. But I remember in 2002 working for London Underground, just before it became Transport for London, and that company have been probably one of the most progressive companies around. Like in 2002, I remember there were biological men who believed they should be transitioning, who worked there, who worked at London Underground, and at the time, and I don't think it's a thing anymore, but at the time, the laws were that if you really wanted to transition, you had to, um, if
Live
you,
as a woman or
you
something.
had to live as a woman indefinitely until they then came and got you. But you had to go to work looking like a woman, and it's not a great look. I'll tell you that for sure, because like you're at the time, it's not like now where you can go into shops and they cater for, they cater for the genders and everything else. You had to go and stand in a woman's shop and wear a woman's skirt and cardigan and and the wigs were, oh my God. And like
Yes.
literally, you know, when you just like, and it was almost like torture, because you're like, why would you come out looking like this? But it meant so much to this person, like in their head, this
Yeah.
was right for them. And they would dress that way until, and in some cases, you know, it was only until it became more free to go out and do the operations in places, you know, elsewhere, because some people were waiting for years and they never got it. And I promise you, women, just a woman born a woman, living as a woman, women didn't have toilets on the tube as tube drivers, let alone a man who was transitioning. There's a, like, it's so funny because I hear people talk about all this, and I look at it, people are looking at it from these days. I can remember in 2002, and it was even a sadder situation. So again, I go back to, if you're going to give people freedom, revoking that freedom is worse than not giving them the freedom at all. It's like, you might as well just not give people the freedom at all and let them get on with it. Like the black people, a lot of black people in America say, at least when there was segregation, we had our towns, we had our banks, we had our train stations. Like, we knew what we were doing because it was ours.
You
And
knew
so
where you were safe.
right, you knew where you stood. But now that everything's been mixed up, and then you go, actually, we've changed our mind, we're going to segregate again, then that causes more pain and everything else. So whatever you do, be kind. Anything else, ladies? We've been on for just about an hour.
I could speak forever, like I say, way more things to say. Well, I think everything we've talked about has been quite an interesting conversation, and I think the fact that the trans community, and like you're saying, in America, the black community are losing their voice, and it's for, I suppose, it's for us as people of influence, if we can stand up and support, and I'm here to support them for sure, and it's something I'm going to be doing a lot more of. But also, I agree with what you were saying earlier, Victoria. You shouldn't. No one should feel like they're forced into speaking up. But at the same time, I love, like Danny Wallace always says, like, are you sitting comfortable? Like, while ever there's other people that are going through trauma, how can we sit comfortable? And I've probably been guilty myself of doing it too much, of just being like, oh, well, my life's good, so why do I need to why do I need to worry? Why do I need to be out protesting or anything like that? Because it's not affecting me, it's not impacting my life. But now something's happening that is impacting my life because it's impacting a member of my family, and it's not comfortable. It's not a comfortable situation. So it does make me want to speak up more and realize that it shouldn't take something like this for me to make it clear that I am an ally to trans people. But often it is the case of, like, everyone's just getting on with their everyday lives, and then it's something like this that hits you and goes, oh my God, actually there are so many people in the world who are transphobic, who are racist, who are just horrible people. And I think they'll say that we had this discussion, I think, a couple of weeks. They'll talk about how they're Christians and they're going to church, but they're certainly not acting in a Christian way at all, or in a human or humane way. They're being completely unkind and not trying to even understand what other people might be going through.
Yeah, and listen, right? People are always going to have opinions, right? People are always going to have opinions, and
you don't have to agree. That's perfect, fine.
Yeah, I've also had to agree with the fact that not everybody likes black people. I've also had to get used to the fact that, sometimes black people are approached because they're the token black person in a group, which I've always said, if you think I am your token black person, do not invite me. I am not your token black person. I refuse, and if I find out that that's the case, I will be addressing it. Yes, I am not your token black person at all. So I agree with that. So I don't, and it will never change. I just think people just need to be kind. You don't need to slag people off. You don't need to discriminate against people. It's like, I'd rather if you saw me just crossing the road, cross the road. I won't think anything
You
of
want
it.
to know where you stand. This is the truth. You need to know who is a safe person and who is not.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same across the board for every marginalized community. We would rather know who is safe and who isn't. So
Yeah.
if you're transphobic, be loud and proud so we know who to avoid. If you're racist, please be as racist as possible, just so that I know that you're not
be kind. But be kind while you're doing it and stuff. So
well, I don't know how you can be racist or transphobic and be kind. Just don't touch me because I will drop you. So just keep it over there on social media.
What you're saying, EJ. It's a case of like, so there have been people that I have unfriended because they've said some horrendous things, and I don't want to be associated with people like that. But I also believe that we need to educate people, and I think we might have talked about this a couple of weeks ago. But to educate people, you can't argue with them. You need to get them to. You need to bring them closer to where you are by being kind to them, and that's very difficult when someone's got such horrendous views that you completely disagree with, but you're never going to change someone's opinion by having an argument and having a fight with them.
I haven't got time to argue with them.
I think we have a couple of comments, but it's not our responsibility to educate anybody.
Have we got comments?
I have a comment here from Sheila. Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you so much. I could relate to so much of what all of you have spoken about. Hi, Henrietta.
Oh,
it's lovely. Hi, Sheila. I know Sheila. Sheila is my friend.
Oh, sorry. Do you know what? I was looking at the private chat and I was like, oh, nobody's commented. Oh, sorry, guys.
Oh, they only just popped up anyway at 1 o'clock.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah. Right. Well, what do you think about that? That was a bit of a conversation, wasn't it? Started really calm and relaxed and then exploded.
I thought I was just going to talk about,
and then Rochelle got into it.
Do you know what? I think we should talk about something one day that we all disagree on. I think that would be fun and stuff. I want to see what topic that we disagree on that's going to literally split the house and stuff. But have a great week, everybody, and we'll be back next week. If you can think of topics that you think we should talk about, maybe there's something that's really bugging you and you think to yourself, do you know what, I'd really love to get this out in the open and see what people say. We will not say your name, so confidentiality is key. But if you think to yourself, do you know what, this is the topic that I'd really love to see aired, then by all means, please just drop us a DM and, message me, message the ladies, and we'll bring it to our group and we'll decide when we were actually going to put it on. Listen, it's great. We've been doing this now. I think this might be our 13th, 14th week. I don't even know. And every week it's growing with the people that we're having coming on, comments, people coming in and liking, and, and we just intend to keep this moving forward every week at 12 o'clock. So join us next week and we'll speak to you soon. Oh, and follow us on YouTube where you can catch up with all the remainder of the other episodes. And if you know anybody who may be at work right now and you're thinking, you need to watch these girls, look out for us. We're going to put the link to the YouTube channel in our profiles on social media and you can go there and register. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.